Good
And I just
afternoon.
wanted to ask the question, is this being recorded?
Looks like it is.
Good, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, this is Keon. Good afternoon, Director of IT Operations for KIPP DC.
Nice to meet you, Keon.
As well.
This is Arnissa Burnett. I am the team lead for DNS and KIPP DC.
Hi, this is Kate Williams. I'm the Director of Business Support at KIPP DC.
Thank you, Kate. Welcome. How about Leighton? Am I saying that right? All right, or Andel?
Yes, ma'am. Andel Pigot. I am the service technician at one of the campuses at KIPP DC.
Awesome, welcome. Leighton, if you're talking, you're on mute. Do you want to introduce yourself? All right. And I see we also have Deborah Menifee on the line. Deborah, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, ma'am. I am a consultant with Hayes for training. And Angie, I'll help you watch the chat window if you'd like, just to be your side viewer in case there's questions in the chat viewer. Thank y'all for letting me attend.
Awesome. And my name is Angie Zuniga. I am a customer experience manager with Hayes Software, work on the support side. I work very close to Stephanie Delgado. If you guys know her, she's your education manager and was probably helping coordinate this training. I know we had a little bit last minute flop on the trainer available, just having to reorganize our trainings today because we had a trainer out sick. But I am happy to be here, happy to train you guys for this refresher session on TIPWeb IT admin training. And Howard kind of mentioned some of the things he's looking forward to, looking at the admin functionality, inventory audits. In talking to Gina, who was your trainer last time, if you guys remember, she mentioned wanting to do a refresh, you guys having some questions or a refresher regarding distribution and what that looks like. Does that look, did that encompass kind of the questions you guys had regarding distribution? Did you want to see that process? What are some of the takeaways you took from the last session that you guys wanted to brush up on?
This is Howard. I'll start. So we have the production instance up. We had all of our active and inactive assets imported in. Going through the process now of actually adding rooms, since we did not do that at the time of import. We didn't have that info available and didn't want to slow down the process.
Got it.
So creating the rooms now. So in essence, as I explained to Gina, all of our assets are in, say, virtual spaces. And we are about to go through, probably in June sometime, and do a full physical inventory of every site location, which is 7. Probably 8 actually, now that I think, with headquarters. And what we want to do is, once we barcode scan those items, identify what room they physically reside in, and make that during the reconciliation process is where I assume we would actually do that. So just want to have us. When I explained all of that to Regina, she said, okay, then I'll focus my training on, kind of what that process should look like based on best practice, etc.
Got it. Good. And Leighton, I see you're able to take yourself off mute. Would you like to introduce yourself? All right, don't quite hear you yet, but hope you'll be able to continue to chat, which is perfectly fine. We'll chat away in our chat box. And if you guys are unable to unmute for any reason and you want to use the chat, as Deborah mentioned, she will keep an eye out on that for us. Anybody have anything else to add about their expectations out of today's training, or something as you've jumped into the application thought, hey, I need to ask about that? All right, well then we'll go ahead and jump right in. I'm going to share my screen with you, and we are working in the admin view in a training site. So note, this is not your live data. This is a demo training site that is designed to help walk you through certain processes. So there's nothing that we can mess up. If you see anything in the application you want to revisit, we can do so. We can add assets, we can transfer assets, and it won't affect anything in the data. So we'll go ahead and get started. So we look at the catalog piece just from starting, because you mentioned that you have had some active and inactive assets imported into the application. So Howard, when you say inactive assets, can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Sure. We just took everything that was in our existing inventory tool called Easy Office,
Okay.
did an export, and then that's what we dumped into the conversion template. Early on, I was asking, how do we identify what's active and inactive? And I was told to go ahead and just put that word inactive, active or inactive, in the tag notes, I think it was. And our thought process was we wanted to be able to use TIPWeb IT for archival purposes. So stuff that we already know is inactive, we just want to transfer it from the old system into the new and be able to refer to it should we ever need to.
Okay, great. Thank you. So I can show you also what that looks like. But in here, and I'm going to open up your live application as we work through the training site. So give me just a moment. I want to compare. This is the training catalog. We'll open and expand our page size and get a glimpse of what that looks like. Now I'm going to drop your live site over. Let's take a look at your catalog. Okay, catalog looks really good. Now, let's say you have some of those inactive assets. Those are tied to products that also are no longer used. Maybe their end of life has far passed. But like you mentioned, Howard, you still want to revert back to those archived assets if need be. But you don't want users using that product name because it's no longer an active or available device to purchase or equipment. So in the catalog, just to make you aware, once those assets go into an inactive, you can inactivate the catalog product name simply by unchecking the active button. And this is under the catalog at the admin view. This will allow you to, it doesn't delete a catalog product name, but it makes it inactive. So essentially it archives it along with the product, the asset tag itself. So once you have archived all of your asset tags for a specific product number and you know no longer will be using it, you can use this functionality just to clean up the catalog. Now, when we're going in to look at those archived assets, if we want to touch on that piece first, the best way to do this is via the tags page, which you'll click on tags in between site and audits. And this tags grid is available only to admin, and the admin, the site admin. So once you're on the admin page under tags, you will select the campus. If it's for an archived report, I would recommend selecting all. And then coming to the drop-down box and pulling up that archived inventory Excel spreadsheet. And because some data was dropped in here previously, let's see if we get a report to pull for us. Okay, so this is the archived report. You'll notice that the header here provides you an archive date, who it was archived by, and the notes. So you notice that this report is empty, and that's all right. What that tells me is those assets that were brought in inactive are probably in a different status of disposed, recycled, returned to vendor. And so in cleanup, what we can do is move those assets in specific statuses to a state of archived. And the way we do that, we'll go back to our training site again so we don't touch that live data. We're going to go over to our tags. And from the admin level, and I don't know how many of you guys have been able to access the tags grid and pulled some reports for yourselves. Anybody? Yeah, Kate. I'll tell you, this is like one of my favorite places in the application because you can create all customized reports. So to identify those archive tags or those devices that are no longer active in the system, there's a couple things you can do. You can search it by the status of the tag. So like I mentioned, disposed, recycled, returned to vendor. You could choose a warranty date. So anything that was, you know, a year after that warranty date, or maybe you look at purchase price. So there's a lot of different fields that we can search by to identify those assets that we no longer need active in the application. Now, it's important to note that any archived assets, when you're attempting to archive, they have to be in a status that's accessible to being archived. So they can't be in use. You can't archive an asset that's distributed out, whether that be to a room, student, or a staff. You also can't archive a device if it's on an audit, nor can you archive an asset if it's on a transfer. So assets that need to be archived will need to be in a status of available, disposed, in repair, lost, stolen, surplus, or used for parts. So let's just pull a report in our learning site for those assets that we have disposed, in repair, and recycled. Let's see if we return any assets. So we did. So we can take a look at all of our devices, and it's probably more likely that maybe in repair doesn't immediately get archived because those are maybe at your tech office. But the recycled, we know these are devices that are no longer in the district. So we've run the report on those. Now from the admin level, you can make a bulk edit to these assets by selecting bulk edit. You'll select status. Now you may be asking, well, if we already know they're in the status of recycled, why do I need to update that status again? One, you can leave it in the status of recycled, select recycled, and then check that archive records. And up here in the tag details, it lets us know, kind of gives us an alert. If you guys notice, when we first searched these tags, we had 98 tags to make an edit on. But the moment we told the system, well, we want to archive these, the system lets us know, well, you can't do that because 60 of those tags are on a transfer. They're either components of a parent cart, or they're in a lost or stolen pending status, or on an audit. So it dropped off those 60, but it left the 38 that are available. Now, what you can do is take these remaining tags after, so if we, let's go ahead and archive those 38 tags. It'll give us a little sample selection. We'll click go. This is the great thing about the tags grid, but it's so important. Sometimes we, in a rush, click through these pop-up pages, but it's letting us know, hey, there's 38 tags you're about to bulk edit. This is great because sometimes we may pull a report and it pulls, I don't know, an entire site's assets. So to avoid making any errors, you actually have to type in the number of assets you want to make an edit to, and then we'll click confirm. Okay, so the bulk edit was successful. And now you'll notice we only have the 60 items that weren't able to be disposed. So now we can kind of pick through these and see what kind of actions we want to take on these, whether it's receiving that transfer, reconciling the fact that they're in a pending approval for lost or stolen, and then we can dispose the remaining assets. Now, if we go and we pull that archived inventory report, we've got a list of our archive tags. And you can see here, we've got the ones that we did just today. Now, the cool thing is, I know it's not foolproof and sometimes mistakes happen. Let's say you archive a tag that wasn't supposed to be archived. You know, you thought it was recycled and you went into a closet at a campus and found that it was still at the campus level and usable. So you can scan in that tag number. It lets us know it's been archived, but selecting actions, you can unarchive it. Now to unarchive a tag, it's by the individual tag. So note, this can't be done in bulk, but this is really for those assets that may remain on a campus and they weren't actually recycled. Any questions regarding the archive process?
No, not here.
It's pretty straightforward. A question I have for you, Angie, is would you be able to, so this is your test system, or would you be able to go into our test system to see the items that say active and inactive in the, I think it's a tag notes field?
Yeah, let's take a look. Need to get back into, let me go over. So do we know if these are in any specific status? If not, it's fine, we can search them.
To the best of my knowledge, everything is, you know, available or.
Okay. So is there any indicator on these tags that would make it easy for us to identify that these are the inactive tags? Maybe a purchase date?
No, it's just a range of items, and I was told that the support team that was, or whoever was doing the data import for us, was putting that. So I created a custom field where I said active or inactive, okay. And I was told that that flag was being used in the move to the tag notes field or something like that.
Ah, okay. The archived, the active and inactive?
Active and inactive, yes.
Okay, so let's check this. This is one of the other great features about the tags page. So if you click on advanced filters, and we'll see if this works. And if it doesn't, and there's anything with the way the data was brought in, I'll keep that as a follow-up and work with my support team on figuring out how we can field out those tags and get those archived for you. But so from the advanced filters, we're going to add an expression and select from the tag dropdown. We're going to go all the way down to tag notes, and we're just going to say it contains the word inactive.
Right.
All right, so we've got 7,600 devices.
That's about, yeah, it's probably about right. Yeah.
Great. So I'm just going to take a peek at one of them. So this is at the vending site. It's letting us know there's that inactive. So as you guys look through these and you've decided, yep, these all need to be archived, you will click on bulk edit, and we'll just go through that same process we just did in our training site. We'll click on status. and we'll go to dispose. And sorry if you guys hear the dog. She's drinking water. I don't know if you guys can hear that, but it's really loud. Okay, so it has told us on the tag details, we have selected 7,651 tags. They're all good to go. We've got no notifications that anything is held up or pending. So I can include my notes and click go. This will archive those records.
Okay. All right.
Okay. So I'll let you guys kind of look through those and go through that process. Sound good?
Sounds good.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, so let's minimize that and go back to our learning site. And before I move on to a new topic, any questions regarding that process or maybe even the tags page?
No, so the only way that we can get to that particular tag is if we do the search for the custom tag.
The only way to pull up those inactive tags, you would want to do it in advanced filters. Yes. So
Okay.
if those tags had a status or any information that's included up here, say they were in a specific location, let's just go ahead and click check all. Let's say we want to check a room. We know it's not on a transfer or student, and we know the room number. You can add location here and type in the room number. It'll give us everything that's located in that room. So if you had an archived room or a disposed room, say all of those tags had a specific product type, like, you know, in the conversion files, you label them as disposed devices. We could pull it by that, by filtering out product type. Of course, status makes it really easy to filter out data. But so these are the initial basic filters, and then you can add your advanced filters here to create more reports. So since you guys have a little bit of knowledge within the tags grid, have any of you guys created customized reports that automate to yourselves or saved reports?
I have not. No.
I have not, but I would love to see it.
All right. So let's say that frequently we're going to want to pull those archived or disposed tags. So we're going to uncheck this and note that you don't need to go through and select checked all. It defaults to check all. So if you do choose the site name, the default on all the other fields is checked. Okay. So we're going to select the status of, let's do in repair. So we want to pull this report to let our technicians know of all of the devices. Oh, let me go out of this piece. All of the devices that we have in the status of in repair at the campuses. And we want this report to be sent to us on a weekly basis, automatically to our email. So you go right here to save search. We're going to go ahead and name it. Then we'll go under Save Searches to create that custom email. You see it right here, see repaired tags. We're going to go over here and click on this little envelope icon to schedule our email report. If you check this box, Enable Email of Tag Listing Report, this is going to create that email rule. We'll go ahead and enter in the email, and you can create multiples just by adding a comma. Now we're going to schedule that report. If we say we want it weekly, what day of the week, maybe what time of day, and then when you would like that report to begin to email out to you. If it has no end date, or you can say, you know what, I just need this to, you know, December. Click Save. And we have created a customized report that will auto email to us within that rule. And do note, you notice that there's a Donna Long in the system. So as each of you create reports, others can access your reports too. What that does for you is kind of creates a peace of mind. If you're away from the office, other users in your department or in the office can send those reports to you without you having to walk them through setting those filters. Any questions on that?
No, thank you.
Seems straightforward.
Excellent. Okay, so you guys mentioned that most of your assets are in virtual rooms. Let's look and see. These are your tags. These are the inactive ones. So you have the Benning virtual room. Let's increase our page size. Okay. So we'll get to the audit piece in just a moment, which you mentioned, Howard. That's how you guys will actually get those assets, kind of confirm what room they're in and be able to reconcile those into the room. You can also do a bulk transfer. So if we have Benning, and let's say we know all of the laptops are going to move into the technology lab at Benning, you can conduct a quick transfer. You can select room to room or site to site. So if you wanted them to go off of Benning into another site, you would just choose the site to site. If it's a room to room, it'll just move it from that virtual room to the room that's assigned. Now I don't want to proceed here because this is your live site, but I wanted you guys to see those virtual room items, and I will go back to my training site.
So Angie, I guess this is a good place to ask. I know Kate had pointed out that transferring, there are financial implications transferring from site to site, certain types of assets. So I realize this is admin training. Mm-hmm. Can that site to site transfer be restricted to only a certain specific admin? I saw where the user levels, you can say what they have access to do and what they can't do.
Yes. So let me go to user role settings. So there is one here, like site admin restricting bulk room to room transfers. A site admin cannot conduct a site-to-site bulk transfer. You can only do that at the admin level. Now, do note that any admin, there's no restrictions you can place on an admin.
Got it.
What you can do is provide them site user access. And if you want, we'll start with that piece. So this is an example. We have a site view admin, a real easy way for you to see what a site view admin, where you can restrict and unrestrict access. So they've got all of these checked. So they have the ability to edit staff and students, receive and initiate transfers. You've got that quick collect room to room transfer, the tags, they can edit those, purchasing. So unchecking those will restrict their access within those areas. And that's a site view admin. Now let's look at the admin user. The admin user is going to have access to the whole district as well as the admin view. Now what they don't have access to, and let's click on this human icon. So it says they don't have that, you can restrict that quick transfer access, what we just talked about. Mm-hmm. So if you say, we don't really want them transferring site to site in bulk, you just uncheck that. If you also want to restrict those bulk edit options, you can uncheck it there as well. Oftentimes, an admin user may not need access to archive, so those can be unchecked, as well as making edits to sites, purchasing, and the catalog. So if you don't want them adding new catalog items, adding new POs, or editing your sites, they could be restricted here.
Gotcha.
So let's look at Jay Gardner and the way the system looks if we're logged in as him. There we go. Okay, so you'll notice, remember we had the tags grid and the sites, those were all unchecked. So he can see them, but he doesn't have access to go in there. Now we can grant him access to view the tags screen, but then restrict permission to make any edits in bulk or transfers in bulk. So you notice a lot of those management, the user management settings is restricted. They do have access to initiate an audit. They'll have access to the sites. You can click on catalog. They can add a record because we've provided them that access, but we can also restrict that, as well as purchasing. Did that answer y'all's questions on restricting their their permissions to do some bulk edits?
Yeah, it did. For best practice purposes, would our on-site technicians just have the site level access and that's it? Not actually admin, site
Sure.
admin?
They could. So what's some of the things that your technicians would be completing in the application?
They would need to put things in repair status, need to say that something has been disposed of. I guess if a device, say a Chromebook, needed to go from room A to room B, presumably they would be able to do that.
Yeah. So,
but as far as changing, as far as entering catalog items, as far as transferring from site to site, things of that nature, we would only want, an admin level person to do.
Okay. Yes, this is our admin user. If we give them access to pull the reports in the tags grid, but no bulk functionality, so no quick transfers or bulk edits, we'll pull back the archive piece. We'll let them see the sites and purchasing and the catalog, but they're not making any edits there. So they'll still have the capability to move those tags to a repair status and also create a transfer, but not in bulk. So what that looks like, let's go to transfers. They'll be able to go to a campus, say they're working on some devices at an elementary school. They'll be able to initiate a transfer, select the campus that those assets are going to be going to, scan in those assets, and ship them off to the new site. Now, once that site, once those go into shipping status, that site will have the capability to receive those assets in. If the technician has that campus access, they'll be able to receive those as well on their own. So here we are at our elementary school. We're going to send them to the learning campus. Normally you would scan those devices that are in front of you, but we just search them. That technician is going to submit the transfer. And you can also create different rules around approvals. If you wanted the site admins to have an approval or a say in what's being transferred in and out of the campuses. In this case, there's no rules set up, so we're just going to ship it. The technician put it automatically in the status of in transit. So now it's going to be up to the receiving campus to receive those assets. Now, if they access it, and this is the part that I really love, under your notification panel, you'll see transfers ready to be received. And that's our first right there, 5157. It's coming from Hillside. We're going to go in and scan that asset tag into the room we'd like to place it in. Once you scan that tag in, you can print out that transfer ticket for your records.
In this example, was that user did I see that that user was admin?
This is an admin.
Okay. So for the on-site technician, who I'm assuming would not be an admin.
Yeah, let's look at it from his standpoint.
Again, we wouldn't want them to be able to initiate a transfer from one site to another.
Right. All right, so we're going to go
I don't believe.
So they can't. So they wouldn't be able to initiate, but they can request it though, correct?
So they can initiate it, and they do have a request transfer, but the transfer request is only for warehouse. So it's a separate functionality of TIPWeb IT. So if you have the warehouse functionality, that's where the request piece comes into play. If it's from just a campus, the technician can initiate from the sending campus to the receiving campus. If they have access to both, like James Garner, he is an admin user, so he has access to the district, so he has access to all campuses. He can initiate a transfer from any campus and send those assets over to the receiving campus.
And I think I heard you, as you were walking us through this, say that you can put an approval process layer in between. So
that's where I was going with that. Thank you.
Okay. Yes. So with any permissions, let's go ahead and log off and go back to that admin view. So here's your site-to-site transfers. So initiated transfers require approval. So if that technician puts in a transfer at Learning High School, that Learning High School primary contact, which oftentimes is the principal or assistant principal, they will get an email that will say your approval is required. A transfer has been initiated. You can also select inventory received from a site requires approval from, and you can select, it needs, and this is the receiving campus. Do you want the site admin to have to approve? Or do you only want to allow those approvals to come from the district level? And again, that site admin is going to be that primary contact site admin for that campus.
And the district level, that would be the overall admin, I guess, right?
Yes, so that would be, yeah, any of you guys. The last piece is the transfers require digital signatures to be captured. So you can require a signature, which is good if you guys are looking for a paper trail on those transfers.
Right. I don't see that being necessary. Not that piece anyway.
Okay. So you can also create a transfer workflow under user types when you're looking at your users. So these technicians, you could also add a transfer approval workflow where if you give the technicians a role, you then will set a workflow into place and saying who has to approve specifically those individuals' transfers. So if the technicians have a main manager or supervisor, you may want to put that workflow into place. Whereas you're not saying all transfers need to be approved, but you need all transfers from the technician role to be approved by certain individuals. You can do that here. Any other questions you guys have for setting up kind of the user role for your technicians?
No, I think those are the big ticket items. We're just going based off of some issues that we've encountered over the years with the last inventory system, where items might get added to the database, with a different naming convention. Instead of saying Chromebook C720, somebody might just say C720. Somebody might say Acer, things like that. So we just want to know that we can restrict out what folks are able to do at the site level.
Certainly. Yeah, so I think as a best practice, the catalog is something that should really only be available to district admins to add to. That will really help minimize any duplicates or unnecessary catalog products to be created. That's really, the catalog is where the foundation of that application comes in. So you do only want to have a few people making those catalog adjustments. The last piece you mentioned regarding, along with kind of those assets being in virtual rooms and auditing, have you guys had an opportunity to look at audits at all, or anybody already go through an audit since you guys have been in the application?
Not gone through the audit, but watched the training video on how they're done, the audit and reconciliation process.
Yeah. Did everybody go through that video?
No, I did not.
Okay. So when an audit is initiated, it starts under admin tools at the district level. And I believe I have a scanner, but earlier today I was creating audits as I was testing them myself, but let's go and see if we have one that's, oh, okay, so we do have one created. I'm going to go over to our Wright Elementary. Let me just show you, when you're creating it, you have to create a unique name. You'll decide if you want the audit to include assets that are in rooms or assigned to staff and student. You can select a due date. Now note, the due date cannot be altered or updated. You can restrict site access if you don't want the sites to be able to reconcile, scan, complete, or delete or remove items. Now then you'll choose site or sites. You can do one for the entire district by selecting all. And then select product types or room types, or just let it default to all items. Now, if you select ignore tags modified after, this is oftentimes used. So say you're getting ready to open up your audits, but you also recognize there's a big pallet coming in of 400 Chromebooks. They're all contained on the pallet. No one's touched them. You verified that they're coming from the vendor. You don't want those to be included in the audit this go around. You can say anything after, today's date. You don't want it to be added to the audit. You could say, a week ago, completely up to you. But once you've chosen how and what filters to add to the audit, you'll click go. That will initiate your audit. As a part of the recent release, you will get a pop-up. It lets you know that when you're opening an audit, it is a large process, especially if you select all of your sites. It is recommended to create an audit at the lower usage times of the day, and then to type in confirm. So we've got an audit created. From the admin view, we can go to view site audit. But note that all of the scanning is going to take place at the campus. Okay, so there we have our right test audit. So we're going to go on over to the campus. Click on that campus audit to open up the district audit details. And here's where we'll begin to scan assets. Now, let's say, because you mentioned that you've got most of your assets in a virtual room. So I'm going to quickly jot down.
Yeah, actually, all of the assets are
Yes,
in
all of your assets.
virtual holding bins.
So we're going to go into, let's say some of these assets that are currently in the virtual holding bins are in room 101. We're going to search room 101 and we're going to begin to scan those assets. And it's going to say that tag is misplaced. That's okay. The most important thing is it's scanned. So we've scanned those tags. Those are the only 2 assets that belong in room 101. We're going to complete the scan for that room. Now let's say that you guys also come back and there's some assets that didn't make it on that conversion template and they're not in the system at all. You scan the tag and it tells you this error message. Okay, it's letting you know the tag is not in the system. So you say, okay, well, how am I going to get it on the system? Well, from the audit, you can initialize into the inventory right from that room. So we've already identified we're in room 102. We're going to click on initialize room inventory. It's going to pull directly from our catalog. We're going to use those binoculars. If you guys note, you can also add to the catalog if you're a district admin and you have those district settings into place where the site's not doing it. But you can create a new product into the catalog directly from the audit. For this example, we're just going to pick a Dell computer, latitude 13. You'll choose your funding source. It can be a general funding source. And because you're initializing, if you later want to associate it to a PO, you can do so. So we're going to say it's available. This specific asset has a custom field, which is the image date. So we're going to go ahead and provide that. And then we're going to scan the asset. It's going to ask us for the serial number. We'll save. And now we've added that asset into our inventory into TIPWeb. Okay, we'll click done. We'll complete. Let's scan some more of these virtual room assets and complete out room 102. And that's how you guys are going to see all of your assets since they are all in virtual rooms. They're all going to come up as misplaced. the only other way they'll come up is tag not in system, and that means you'll need to initialize. All right, so at this point, once we've scanned all of our assets that are in the virtual room into the rooms they're actually physically located, we're going to go ahead and approve that audit and click confirm. Close it out. It'll move that from a 100% scan to a 0% reconciled state. We're going to go back to our district to reconcile the audit. So from the admin view, we're going to choose audits, reconcile audits. Pull up that audit that we are working on, click go. Okay, missing tags. So don't be alarmed if you see missing, but what missing means is all tags start in the state of missing when opening an audit. Once you begin to verify the tag into a room where it's located not only physically, but also in TIPWeb, it'll give you a verified in the modal we were just in. If you scan it in an alternate room like we did, it'll show you misplaced, and it will come up as misplaced on the audit. So you guys will be dealing with misplaced and missing assets. So we will look for those misplaced assets first. Let's grab our tag audit state of misplaced. So these are the 4 Chromebooks that we saw that were in our virtual room. I know it shows you audit location 10102, but we're just going to pretend it says virtual room. And, the expected location was the virtual room of 110, and the audit location is where we actually scanned it. So now from here, we can do one of 2 things. We can take action on these assets individually, or we can do them in bulk. And in bulk, you would just take that top checkbox, click reconcile, or we can do them individually and say transfer to the room. Says it was expected in room 110, and we're going to transfer to 101 where I scanned it and click go. Okay, so it shows it was collected. If we now look at that asset tag, you'll see that the room updated to 101. We can look at our scan audit history. It lets us know in room 110, hey, don't be alarmed. If the asset was found, it was actually misplaced over here in room 101. Okay, and it shows you when it was updated. And we can close out. Any questions on running that those assets into the audit to get them into their actual physical location?
No.
No.
Seems straightforward to me.
Okay, great. So to close out the audit, we'll do that. We'll go through all of those statuses. If you do it in bulk, instead of transfer to room, the action will be collect. It's defaulting to the room that we scanned it in. You can include any notes you'd like to. Click go. Now all of our misplaced tags have been completely reconciled. Now we can go back to any missing tags we still have lingering. So any assets that we had on that conversion file that are in those virtual rooms that we didn't scan will appear here. Now I do recommend, if you guys have those inactive tags, are those physical devices that are located at the district, or they're no longer at the district, or maybe we don't know?
Say it again now. Are they?
Your inactive tags.
Oh, the inactives.
Mm-hmm.
So, Arnissa, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's a mix of assets that were sent for recycling. I think it was items that were lost and stolen, etc.
Okay. So
Arnissa,
currently,
does that sound about right for the inactives that were in EZO? And she might be tied up with something.
yeah.
I'm listening, but yeah, that's about right from my recollection.
Okay.
So currently, if you guys were to open an audit right now, most likely what will happen is your assets will show up as missing. So if these assets aren't at the campus to be scanned, when you create the audit and those inactive assets are not archived yet, they will show up on this audit. So if that happens, again, you can bulk reconcile and just ignore all those missing assets. But I would recommend you guys go ahead and archive those asset tags prior to beginning the audit so you don't run into a large number of missing tags. That makes the kind of the weeding out of the actual missing tags for your active devices easy to do more research on.
If we archive something, as you're suggesting, do that on the front end. And during the course of the barcode scanning, we come across something that, say a Chromebook that was listed in the old system as inactive, but it's actually now physically an active asset. Will the system give us any sort of heads up saying, oh, you previously said this thing you just scanned was inactive. Do you want to make it active?
If I remember correctly, I believe it gives you an error that says tag not on this audit. And let me look and see, because we can also simulate that. And I know Deborah's on the line. Deborah, can I use a lifeline? Or do you know if it gives you I believe it says tag not on this audit, but could you verify maybe?
I can't, in that I can't remember either exactly. But it does pop up there is an error message or a reminder message of some kind. I just don't remember exactly what it says.
Yep. And if I quickly reconcile this audit, let's see if I can get it where we can look really quick. So what I'm doing right here is going through, so you can only reconcile by each location and audit state one at a time. Oh, this is students. There we go. So I'm reconciling students now, and let's see if it closes out this audit so we can see what that looks like. All right. So we're at the district, so let's do creating that audit again. I'm going to type in confirm. Okay, so let's go on over to Wright Elementary. Oh my goodness. I did it again. I've got to archive a tag first. Okay, bear with me just a moment, guys. We'll get this so I can show you this example. While I get this ready, do you guys have any questions on what you've seen in the audit so far that I can help with?
No, I don't have any. I don't have any questions. I'm just curious about how the process you're just getting ready to walk us through will work, because my initial thought was we would not archive the stuff that was flagged as inactive, just in case we encountered a device during the course of our actual inventory.
Right, and that's perfectly fine too. Just remember that those assets, if they're not located at the campus, you remember I think we had what, 7,500 of them is my number maybe.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's a total of like 21,600 and some odd that were actually imported in. So the 7,000 inactives is about right.
Okay. And my only thought is you'll have to kind of weed through those 7,000 assets.
Right.
Up against maybe just a few, maybe 50 or under of the assets you guys actually maybe just missed, but that are active assets that you really want to account for. It may just make it a little hard for you guys.
Right. We'd have to filter through the noise.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, as long as this process gives us some sort of warning or flag or message that, hey, this thing you just scanned is in the system in some other status, then I guess that would be sufficient. We could go ahead and make inactive those 7,000 plus.
Great. And that being said, now that we've kind of talked through that piece, the audit is created and I can bounce over to Write. And let's look and see that error message that we get so we can confirm if we do scan an archive device. So if I go into room 101, I'm gonna take that archive device and there we go.
Okay.
Tag archived.
Good enough. Fair enough. All right. That makes it simple then.
So that archive tag you guys can just kind of put off to the side and move along through the audit. I think this will make for a much cleaner process. It sounds to me like there's more of the devices that are active that you guys want to ensure that you're scanning them into the correct locations versus archive tags kind of lingering in the campuses. But this is a great indicator that you do have that asset that has been archived and it doesn't make its way on audit.
Got it. Thank you. Thanks for taking the time to go through that.
Absolutely.
It looks like we've got about another 22 minutes. Yeah. So I know I wanted to kind of gear the conversation towards the inventory, the audit, and reconciliation. But I don't want to hog up the conversation in the event there's other questions that need to be asked by either Leighton or Kate, like about the PO process, importing, bulk importing of new assets and things of that nature. So.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Kate or Leighton, if either of you have questions about any of that stuff, feel free to chime in.
I don't think I have questions, and I do have to drop off for another meeting. But I do just want to mention to Keon and Howard that there's the funding restriction that we were talking about earlier. Well, where we were shown how to we can restrict assets. There's a way within the funding screen that we can we can restrict a transfer that I'd looked into before. And I think we just pick, like, there's only one person at the organization. We can pick a person who could do a transfer for fund, like anything for that grant. So I just want to talk to you guys at some point about what our process would be. Maybe we just put like Keon's name there, and then, but for the TIPWeb team, I want to ask, like, as long as we put that, do you know what screen I'm talking about, Angie?
To restrict the funding source here, the actual district setting?
There's like within funding specifically under each individual funding source, there's a transfer restriction.
Right here?
So what I was originally planning to do is do transferring restricted to, and then we pick somebody, which I think it would be Keon.
Okay.
But I don't know. And then does that mean that anything then that gets assigned to that specific funding source would, like an error message would pop up if someone else tries to
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
so they
it'll
would.
say, it'll just delete it off and let them know that it's a restricted funding source item and they cannot add it to a transfer.
Right. Yeah, they would definitely come to me, and the ones that I can think of specifically, just as an example, would be like it might be actual like network equipment. Let's just say it was a switch, and that switch was purchased using E-rate funds for a specific building entity number. You know, so if we had a switch go out at another building, I know that I can't transfer that. It would have to be a new purchase or something like that. So those would be the kinds of things that I'll be able to restrict or allow. But
Okay. Okay, so then for the other grant funding, we'll just default to you as well, and then you can, you just have to have like an offline conversation with Eric first about whether we are able to transfer any of those assets or inactivate them.
correct. Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, whatever transfer request is initiated, I just want to know about it to be able to approve or deny it. That's basically what I'm looking for.
Okay.
Angie, so, you know, I know we walked through it a little bit in the beginning of the call.
Yeah, so that would be that other district setting where any transfer would come to approval too. And then this one would stop them before they could even initiate a transfer. Is that the idea, Angie? Just to
Take me back through that last piece.
So we're gonna set up the district setting that you talked about where an email, like Keon will get emailed if anybody tries to initiate a transfer. But if we do this additional step here for grant funded ones, a person won't even be able to initiate a transfer for that asset. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So Keon, do you agree with doing both of those layers then?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. That was all I had. I have to jump off. Thank you.
Thank you, Kate.
Okay.
All right.
Leighton, I don't know if you can hear us or not. But if you can show us, Angie, the piece about doing bulk import from, say, new purchases and being able to add funding sources to those.
So in the bulk purchase order process, the funding source does need to already exist prior to import. Okay, so let me pull up that template here. And I am happy to send you guys the this template if you need it. So the most important thing in a import is the funding source needs to exist in the application. The purchase order shell must be created. You'll give it a purchase price. As a best practice, use your product number versus product name. For those really long product names or stuff that has special characters, that eliminates any data issues. So product number is best recommended. Ensure that your room is created at the site to include the room, the site ID. The serial is optional unless you've made it required in the application. The status and tag. So that's what the template looks like. So we'll come on over to our training site here.
Hey, Angie, I'm not sure if I'm a little behind or not, but the screen seems to be stuck. I'm just looking at like Excel sheet.
Yeah, for sure. Does anybody else see the
No,
live?
I'm not. I see the live.
Okay.
Now I see you.
There you go.
And back to the screen. Your screen.
Okay. Keon, do you see it now?
Actually, I do not. I just see your initials.
Okay. Can anyone else confirm they see the application screen?
I see it.
Okay.
All right, now,
Yeah.
now it's back.
Okay.
There we go.
Maybe a connectivity issue.
Probably my fault.
Yeah.
My connection kind of sucks.
No worries. So the good thing is I believe it's recording at speed. So if you need to revisit this piece that you don't get the visual, I'll send this to you. So this is the PO that's created already for us to import, this one here, 2225764. You'll note that it does have a line item here, but it's not the number of items we're bringing over. So if it's a clean PO, it won't create any products. We just need that shell created. So you would go to add record. This is to create the PO shell. You give it that PO number. You will choose your vendor and include your funding request number. Your purchase date is required. The delivery date is optional. And you save. So this is the only piece of a PO that must be created prior to importing those assets into the system. Now, it's important to note that you not only have the option to import to a room. Let's go ahead and get my you click import. In the settings, it'll tell us you can import it to a room, staff, or student. So I know right now this is kind of something all districts are working on and it's pretty important, but you guys are getting new devices and you want to distribute those directly out to students. So if you have that student ID data and the new device information, you can import them into the application and create the assignment to student all within that PO import. Now, if your assets already exist in the system, that association would need to happen at the campus level individually by student. And I can show you guys how to do that if it's something you guys are focused on right now. So for this import, we are just doing it to a room. You'll notice it tells us what the required fields of that template are. I've already showed that to you. You've got some optional fields as far as account code, invoice number, and date. If this product type that you're importing in requires any custom fields, it'll also give you that option up above. So the system automatically recognizes our product number. I like to select detect custom fields, detect fields, and this product number automatically relocks. Now, a little trick to the system is if you click re-import, the system is automatically going to title all of our fields for us. Once we've got all of our columns titled, we're going to click validate. And these assets are validated, and we will click finish. We will say OK. And if we were to search any of those tags that we just uploaded on the PO, they're in the system and they're ready to be distributed. There's our order number from that PO, device, product information, location. We can go to that campus. And that's the PO import process. Now, I will tell you there's a second way to import tags as well. So let me go back to our district view, our admin view. This import process can be done at the admin view or the site view. Let's go ahead and go into our PO. If you work all the way down to the products tab and we add our product here, let's say we've created our own simple import file. We're just going to do 10. We're going to, oops, 10. Now that first template that I showed, the PO import template I showed you, oftentimes you're able to maybe ask your vendor if they can put the assets and the PO information on a spreadsheet for you. But this is a simple PO import upload. I will choose the campus that I'm going to import these assets to. I can do them individually. This is only 10. And you'll notice there's that same import icon. But this import template is only going to require the room, the status, and the tag. Because we've done all the other back-end work as far as what site it's going to and all that funding and product information. So I just wanted to show you both methods, but both ways, easy and time saving. Any questions regarding that?
No, not right now.
I wouldn't imagine, Keon, we would have a situation where we would know at the time of purchase, like say, for example, Chromebooks, what student they're actually going to. So I don't know that we would ever use that part.
Well, note, Howard, that that piece, so creating that PO shell is exactly what you mentioned, right when you order it. The rest of the amount, when you receive it in, that doesn't have to happen. That PO, the large PO import, doesn't need to occur until you guys have physically got those devices on site. Mm-hmm. That's when those assets are tagged and ready to go.
Okay.
And you're right, even so, you may not know. It's questionable to have them imported automatically to the students unless maybe those devices have already been distributed out in some way, because there's really no foolproof way other than giving it to the hands of the student and allowing that parent to sign for those devices, right?
Right.
All right. Any other questions regarding that, or how else can, what other questions do you have for me?
For now, that's all I have.
Okay.
What are some, for Keon's benefit, what are some reports that, best practice on reports that we should set up in the system for him to get on a regular basis?
Sure. So, Keon, tell me a little bit about what you currently do on a day-to-day basis, or what important information regarding your assets do you look at frequently?
So I look at, I definitely look at inventory to see where we are. I don't necessarily look on a daily basis, but it'd be more like maybe once a month. I don't look at it really frequently until we get to about budget time, and I need to sort of figure it out. I would like to see reports about what's going in and out for repair and things like that. I mean, we do have another system where I can sort of track that. But if I can get it, emailed to me from all one system, that'd be great. So those are two of the things that I look at right away when it comes to assets.
Okay.
And then something that I know. So, for example, I would want to know if we're doing, if we're having a warehouse, and I would like to keep the warehouse replenished, which is something that Howard usually manages, but I would like to see her to sort of keep track of those sort of things too, just so I have an idea about what, what I'm gonna have to order throughout that month, or what my budget needs are going to be, I should say. I'm not actually doing the ordering.
And by warehouse, I believe you're referring to the spare parts, so stuff that's not actually asset tagged. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yes, that is-
so we were shown, Angie, that we can put items in the database that are don't have serial numbers, don't have asset tags, but they're consumables. So like Ethernet cables, mice, etc.
Mhm.
And then we can set thresholds. So if each site starts with, say, 10 widgets, when they get down to 5, I would get a email or alert that says, hey, site A needs to have 5 more widgets ordered.
Right. So the untagged assets piece is a functionality of the warehouse. So let me just test something. Yeah. So I just want to see what the PO looked inside, if it gives us any ability to add an inventory. So in TIPWeb IT, without warehouse functionality, you can track untagged assets only at the distribution level. Meaning, for example, accessories that are given out with a Chromebook. If you give a sleeve, like you mentioned, maybe a wireless mouse and maybe a stylus, you could create accessories for those products to be issued out, and then you could pull reports based on accessories. Now the functionality, when you mention like spare parts and so forth, that is a warehouse functionality. And has anyone talked to you guys about using warehouse?
I don't believe so. I mean, we were when we first had our first discussion about this, and I want to say back in December, possibly January, we brought this up that we would like to have the ability to do this, and we were told, yes, you can do that. And so they may have walked us through it, but the term warehouse isn't striking a chord with me, so I actually don't remember it.
Okay. Good. Let me follow up with Blake, or is your success manager Andressa? Okay.
Andressa, yeah.
Okay.
Impressive.
Yeah.
I know we talked about it briefly. I mean, very brief, but we were just so focused on getting the imports done correct and everything like that.
Yeah. Let me get a follow up on that for you guys, because with the warehouse functionality, you can track containers, parts in containers. You can get those reports that are sent to you showing you how many are going in and out. You can look at any time if it was replenished and if they took away. So it gives you a little bit of a better idea of those quantities for those untagged devices. Now in the catalog, you have a lot of different reports. Inventory quantity by product type, you have your value by product type, missing inventory by value type, and of course at the home screen, there's quite a few different statistics dashboards that's going to give you your values. You can also look. Here you talked about your status changes to in repair. So you can select one of those to create different reports. You can also be notified every time a tag goes into in repair, or like I showed you at the beginning of the training, scheduling and creating a customized report for those in repair devices, or budget reports, because you can include, if we go back to the tag screen, we can include additional information under your advanced filters. You can do model end of life, purchase date, projected life, and then at the tags grid, reports that are already available to you, your status lifecycle report, your tag depreciation report. So that will all help you. You have your E-rate report with certain inventory and budget reports.
Thanks. So I'm gonna go through them all. And I do have to jump because I have another call coming up. But one of the questions I had was, when I'm doing all those individual reports and I set it up, or it should be, weekly or monthly basis, are they all coming as individual documents, or are they all coming as one document?
They'll come individually, and it will be titled as you included on the report.
All right.
And Kian, if you need help with that later on in the day or tomorrow, you want to circle back around, and we can walk through that again.
All right. Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. Thanks. But I do have to jump, so I really appreciate it, Angie.
Thank you.
Going through everything.
Certainly. I know that we are right at the 1:30 mark. So I do appreciate all of you guys jumping on today. I hope that you learned a lot and you found value in it. If there are additional topics or questions that you still have and you would like for a follow-up from me, I can certainly give you a phone call. My email I will write in the chat. You can email me directly. And of course, I'm always available for a quick call to help answer additional questions.
Perfect.
Yeah.
This is very helpful, Angie. Thank you.
Absolutely. There's my email and our support email. Go ahead and feel free to save those. And it was really a pleasure talking to all of you today.
As
Same
well.
here.
Thank you.
Thank you. You guys have a wonderful day.
All right. Take care, Angie.
All right. Bye-bye.